Perfect. Can you
Okay.
share?
Yeah. We can
And then we try again. That's how it happens. That's how
yeah.
it goes.
We can
And then we try again. That's how it happens.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Skill Olympics 2026. I completely understand there was a technical glitch. Hello, everyone. Yes, and we really apologize for that. We had to share a new link and everyone had to join back. Understand there was also a technical glitch. Our speaker who has been very supportive for that. We had to share a new link and everyone had to join back. There was also waiting event where all the students get awarded, the teachers, the principals, everyone. Yes, as a part of Skill Olympics, we have this entrepreneurship webinar. So I, Payal, your host for today, work for the team of Ulipsu. As we all know, Ulipsu is one of the largest skill development program, and where you all learn different kind of skills, like coding, artificial intelligence, design thinking, finance and entrepreneurship. So all these course skills. So yeah, welcoming all the schools across the country and from like yes across the country again, like from Bangalore, everyone from Bangalore. Hi. Obviously, I cannot see anyone telling a hi, but yes, assuming everyone is waving at all of us, a hi from Bangalore, Bombay, Hyderabad, Chennai, from everywhere. And also, we have schools from Saudi too. So, yeah, hello and welcome to everyone here. And yes, and it's something great that we have students from grade 6 to 10. Grade 6, yes, obviously, who are just starting with entrepreneurship, who are just getting into it, not knowing much about it, which is very much interesting that the students are interested in it. That is something really great. And yes, again, welcome everyone. Now, moving forward, I would like to welcome our speaker for the day, Miss Jackie Luzy Hansen. Jackie, it's an immense pleasure to have you here for this event, and thank you for giving your time to us to become this guest speaker of the day. So, talking about Jackie, Jackie is a global educator and an entrepreneurship mentor. She's joining us all the way from Copenhagen, from Denmark. She holds a master's degree in innovation and entrepreneurship and has conducted research on social entrepreneurship in the Philippines. She has co founded two food startups, international and cultural festivals, also giving her first hand experience and turning ideas, which we all have the idea, and she has turned it into something as like real world adventures. So yeah, today Jackie works with young learners, not very much young learners like us, obviously. So in schools as well as with university entrepreneurship programs, where she teaches storytelling, branding, and how to communicate idea with clarity and purpose. Yeah. So basically, Jackie, she literally believes entrepreneurship is a mindset that can be learned early, and literally she is really excited, as I believe, to explore that with the students of our schools today. So Jackie, a big welcome to you. So yeah, moving ahead, I am definitely sure you all are excited and want to know what is going to happen today. So I'll just give a gist what is going to happen. So yeah, basically all the students present here, you will be learning about what entrepreneurship really means, and how innovators, while innovating something or while thinking something, what do they actually think, what the problem is, and how they tend to solve the problems that is related. So yes, I will not take much time of Jackie, and moving ahead, Jackie, I will hand this over to you. But before that, just a clarification, all the students, please make sure you have a notebook and a pen with you as Jackie is doing the session. Let's be very attentive, and you all can make a note of your queries and doubts, whatever you have. In the end of the session, we will have a Q&A session where you can comment your questions. The comment section will be open at that time, and you can comment your questions and we will take it forward. Yes, I hope this is clear. And Jackie, everything is over to you. I hand over it to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Payal, and thank you, everyone. And I hope you are doing well. It's snowing and very cold from where I am right now, but I'm so excited to be here with you guys today for the next hour and a half. And it's going to be two different slides, but where we're going to start with the first one, which is about entrepreneurship. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. Hang on. There you go. All right. So for all of you new learners, their entrepreneurship might sound like a very big word. And then there's something about innovation, and there's something about entrepreneurship, and what is all of these different things. And so right now we're going to clarify what the difference is, and take a deep dive into the different ways of structuring entrepreneurship. All right. Let's go here and see if I can get here. All right, so in basic terms, there are three ways of being a creator, an entrepreneur. The first one is the entrepreneur who has an idea that solves a problem. We always look at creating something of value and changing something for the better. So an entrepreneur can start a business that is having a great impact, or helping lives, or perfecting something within another business. So that's an entrepreneur. And usually, I don't know if you know the Dragon's Den, if you're something similar there, where people go in and pitch their ideas. That's typically the entrepreneurs. And they can be co-founders, which basically means they can be a handful of owners, or they can be a solo entrepreneur who gets a specific idea and starts to put that into the world. The second one is something called an intrapreneur. So you don't actually have to start your own company and be an entrepreneur, but great companies understand that if they want to make change and maybe lead forward in the industry that they are in, they work with intrapreneurs. So these are people who are change makers within a bigger company already. So in other words, that actually means that an intrapreneur is a hired person who doesn't have to earn, who gets a salary and has that security within the company. And the risk is taken by the company or by the bigger business, where typically the entrepreneur has to lead that themselves and find funding, etc. Then there's the innovator, which basically could be both of them. So an entrepreneur can be an innovator, and an intrapreneur can be an innovator. An innovator is somebody who's working creatively to find something new. It has to be a solution, once again, that is out there in the world. So you talk about creativity being small things like drawing and arts, but then there's the innovator, where it's actually something that you launch into the world. Hope that makes sense. I'll try not to speak too fast. Hope this is good. So, the normal way of looking at an entrepreneur as we know it today is, if you have $1, you have one vote. This means that if you own a company, if you put all the money in the company and all the time in the company that you want to start, then you decide everything if you're the only one. If you one day decide, I want some more money to be able to scale my company, or I need to buy some inventory, or I need to buy things into my company so that it can grow, you might want to get an investor. And so if an investor put money in, that means that the amount of money they put in, they can hold shares in the company, which means they will have bigger vote. To make it very simple, it's just about that here, the money actually makes you the decision power. And the goal here is profit. Not that all for-profit companies are only about money, but the goal for the company to survive really is focused on making money and the profit, and then reinvesting in the company itself. So that type of entrepreneur would typically be seen as some of these big entrepreneurs we see globally on TV who has a lot of money and who runs great companies. And the risk is also very much with the people who put the money in. All right. So the other type of entrepreneur is what we call the democratic entrepreneur. It could even sound like a social entrepreneur, but in this way of putting a company together, it's one person, one vote. And the difference here is that regarding the money you put in, or regardless of how much resources you put in, one person in the company has one vote. And when I talk about vote, I mean, that's the decision making of where you want to go with the company. Okay, I will come with some clear examples soon enough. So hold your horses. It means that if you are 20 people who owns the company, all of you 20 people, regardless of how much money you put in the company or how many hours you put into work in the company, you all have the same vote. And that's why it's called democratic ownership. I'll give you some examples very soon. So the goal here is actually purpose and profit. And there's something very powerful when you are a lot of people together. All right. So I want to take a deeper step into what democratic entrepreneurship can look like. So there's the employee owned. That means that you will see companies that are owned by the employees. So that means all the employees has a say on where this company is going. Then there's the producer owned, and that's about could be like farmers. I have some examples of that, where they go together to be able to get bigger shares of the market and get more customer or optimize the way they're working. And then they all go together and own a company together and become entrepreneurs like that. And then the third part is consumer owned. And a consumer is just like you and me. We are all consumers when we go to the grocery or if we go and buy clothes. So we're all consuming something. And us consumers, we can also decide to own a company and become a democratic entrepreneurs. All right, so I want to just take the attention to the little country that I'm based in. We're not even 6 million people. I think we're just still like 5.5. So it's a very small country compared to where you guys are. And but we have a huge tradition in terms of having democratic entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. That basically means that 90% of our milk production comes from democratic dairies, and we have 10% of the entire economy of Denmark is a democratic business, which actually means that 1 in 5 private employees works for a democratic company. So that's 1 in 5. I think that's pretty good for a small country like ours. So now I want to give you some clear examples because that was a lot of numbers and concept and ownership and all that. What actually happens was that in the 1800s, small individual farmers couldn't afford expensive equipment. They couldn't process all this milk and meat. So they actually realized, well, together we're stronger. And they created this company, which was called Arla, and made sure that they all owned the company together to be able to put these small farms and collaborate. And that has resulted in today that Arla is really the global giant. And I don't know if you know Arla there, but they're still owned by farmers today. This was something I didn't really know growing up because I was used to seeing in the grocery shops, and that Arla is a very strong brand here. But that's one way of democratic entrepreneurship. We also have a store chain called Coop, which is a supermarket chain that is very famous here. It's one of the major chains that we have. And here it's a lot of the consumer who owns it. So the power of this group of citizens who've decided to stand together and be able to own a share in the company. And then when they have to make decisions of like how much organic should we have and how should we run the stores, it's all decided by this one person, one vote rule. All right. I want to talk a little bit about another case, which is the cooperative cycle. We have a big bike nation. I also think you have a lot of bikes, and that means we need bike shops. And here it's more on a smaller scale, but still there are 11 owners and 49 employees. And what they have decided is not to have any big boss, but to be able to decide the rules together. And so I also want to talk about that you don't always have to be a democratic entrepreneur. You can be a regular entrepreneur. There's a case that is not here on the slide, unfortunately, but I just wanted to mention it. It's called Too Good to Go. So if you're able to Google that or look that up afterwards, it's called Too Good to Go. And basically, what the founders did there is that they wanted to change how we are using food waste today. Because even in a country like Denmark that has green energy as a major focus, we have a lot of food waste, too much, if you ask me. And a lot of the food is thrown out from the supermarket, even if it's not gone bad yet. So what they decided was to build an app called Too Good to Go, where you can actually, the same day in the morning, for a very cheap amount of money, buy a bag of foods that was near the expiry date. So actually food that wasn't run out of the expiry date yet, but still not fresh enough for it to be sold. And it turned out that that a lot of young people and people who are financially or struggling, or even people who just thought it was fun because they would get something surprising or new recipes, was really liking the idea of fighting food waste. And this was not a democratic entrepreneur, but it was a regular entrepreneur with $1, one vote, and is today a very successful startup in several countries. Right. So why is it that I'm talking about democratic entrepreneurship? I think I just wanted to share to you with all of you who might have dreams about becoming an entrepreneur. In Denmark, a lot of startups go bankrupt, which means within 3 years, majority has already closed down. And the bankruptcy rate is really close to 90%. But when you go into democratic business and democratic entrepreneurship and you are a group together, the bankruptcy rate is much, much lower. It's only 0.06 in Denmark. And the reason why I want to share this and I want to talk about this on my masterclass today is that we tend to be stronger together. More brains, more creativity, more eyes on the risks out there, and even more purpose. So even though I do also believe in following your dreams and going as a solo entrepreneur until you get that crowd of people around you, is also a way to go. But in general, the statistics show that the bankruptcy rate is much lower. All right. So what you can just as a simple way, if you go deeper into it, there will be a more complex situations. But for you as a starting point, the very simple way of remembering this is that if you're a shareholder, you might look at financial return. If you're a stakeholder, you might look at a return of purpose and vision. When I was working in the Philippines and researching on social entrepreneurship, one of the major difference there is that the majority is the marginalized. So the majority is the marginalized, which means the majority there are poor. Unlike in Denmark, where I grew up, the marginalized is the minority. Okay, so the social entrepreneurs and the people building social businesses actually stepped in where maybe the government failed with the welfare system or where they couldn't reach. And that's when they created SEPs, SEPPS. So that is social entrepreneurship with the poor as primary stakeholders. And it's a similar model to the democratic entrepreneurs. Okay. So I really believe that entrepreneurs are change makers. They are here to change the world for the better. They're also here to optimize and here to inspire. So being an entrepreneur, democratic leader, social entrepreneur has these three different key features. People who understand and are listening very carefully, they understand their team, they know how to listen very deep and understanding what the situation that the people are in, are the ones who are leading within entrepreneurship. The next skill they have is that they understand the dialogue and a debate. And it's not about like the loudest voice or necessarily who has the most money, but it's actually the best idea that wins, the one that has the most impact. And great democratic leaders and entrepreneurs understand the responsibility that comes with it as well. Okay, so in very brief terms, it's about deep listening, dialogue, debate, and responsibility. So that was a little bit about entrepreneurship and what type of business you can do as an entrepreneur. And this goes in all industries. Now I want to talk a little bit about the intrapreneurship. So the ones who are changing the game from inside, the people who want to bring new ideas on the table. And they will always ask the question, why do we do it this way? Could we do this better? Could we do this better together? Why are we putting it in this way and not in the other way? Maybe you already know this kind of person within your friends who are always asking questions and who are always looking at not necessarily optimizing everything, but just questioning everything. And entrepreneurship is also very good at gathering the team. They understand that when you have a team together, that you can solve all these problems in a group and not alone. That basically means that they understand that we are all different. I'm sure when you think about your classmate, you have one who's really good at talking, then you have the one who's the coder who sits and quietly on the side, or you have the one who's always very creative and a visual learner. We need all that to be able to be innovative and to be able to be entrepreneurs. The last part is also that if you want to be an entrepreneur within the company, it's also very great that you have a ownership mindset. What that basically means is that you are not expecting everybody to do it for you. You own the project, you treat it as your own, you treat it as a team, and you own it whatever happens. All right. And do write questions down because I'm not sure if, since I haven't met you and I'm used to people responding, just let me know if there's anything you want more clarified. And so I just wanted to inspire you all to, when you want to start your own journey, this is the process that you could do maybe in class or with some friends if you want to start a little business, if you want to create something creative or you want to make an app. Remember the first step is actually to find a shared problem. What does your community need? Do you need cleaner streets? Do you need better study tools? Where is the problem? The second part is that you gather your team and your friends and you find a shared passion. For me, passion is the biggest important factor because when you start to work on a problem and a business idea, and if you're actually going to do that on your own, or you're going to, when you stop school and you're going to be 100% entrepreneurs, you have to know that this is something you're going to breathe in and breathe out every day. So if you are trying to start a business with something that you don't like, this is going to backfire. And so make sure that you start a business within the passion or within something that you enjoy. Then you really set your rules. You decide on how you want to vote. That means how you want to make decisions within your company, so that you don't get to disagree on that later. And then the one big important word, which is like purpose, closely connected to passion. Why do we do this? Why do we want to have cleaner streets? Why do we want to make better study tools? To empower the students or to have safer streets, right? So make sure what is your purpose, why you're doing this, because that is also your battery for keeping going and to changing the world. And then the last part is to just start. Whether it's democratic enterprise or your own startup journey and your own entrepreneurial project, just start. It's better to try it out, because entrepreneurship is really about failure. I mean, just before I got here, I had a conversation with a woman from a company called Fail Forward. And fail forward is basically that we fail our way to success, or we fail our way towards finding a solution. And there will always be challenges. There will even be technical difficulties like we had earlier. It will happen. And even for the best tech staff in the world, it happens, because that is the nature of the world. That is not the question if failure will happen. The question is, how will you handle it, and how will you rise up again, and how will you keep on adjusting your vision, your passion, and again, going towards, is it really a problem that we can solve? Okay, and we'll get more into that on how to do that. All right, so the world is really facing big challenges, and solving them is really hard to do alone. We have to be able to do that together, whatever structure it is, and you just have to figure out, how can I solve these problems? All right. I'm just going to share another screen here. Good. In a second, I'm going to share another slide where we're going to go into a second part, which is called design thinking. But just to sum it all up, I just want to say that entrepreneurship is a mindset. So whether you are working within a bigger company, or whether you are working with your own idea with a few people, it's all about being brave, and it's all about wanting to take those ideas out there. All right. Hang on. So I don't know if you guys know Lego. I heard you probably do. It's one of the biggest companies in the world, and it's Danish. And just, I think a couple of hours from here is Legoland. So I live in the country of where Lego exists, and Legoland is based. I think there's also Legoland outside of Denmark, but this is the original. And one of the things that we've been really good at here in Denmark is that we had to learn design thinking. And design thinking is very closely linked to how entrepreneurs think and how they work. And the reason why I wanted to go through this with you today is because this can be learned from a very young age. It doesn't matter if you're a young teenager or if you're in your 20s. This is something that you can use throughout the rest of your life. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, or if you're going to work I think this is a great tool. Hang on. There you go. The first part I want to talk about is that I kind of mentioned it briefly earlier, is that creativity is the pathway to innovation. So creativity, for some of you, you might think, well, I'm not that creative. I don't do like drawings, and me neither. I'm not like very. If you ask me to draw or to stitch something or to sew some clothes, I definitely have friends who are much better than me to do that. So I always focus on that creativity is not necessarily how good you are to paint a painting or how good you are to sew something. Creativity is a way of thinking, and it's a way of solving problems. And when you've solved that problem, that's when it becomes potentially innovation. Okay. I want you to know that you are already a designer. It's really not about designing something cool, the next trend, or something really hip. It's really about how you make a difference. And so a design thinking person always have an optimistic mindset. That means that, well, this is not a problem, it's a challenge. It's a challenge that we can solve. Much like the entrepreneur, the design thinker also understands that working together, teamwork, and being collaborative is what makes us stronger. And the last part is that design thinkers and entrepreneurs understand that we're learning by doing. Okay, so we're learning by doing and by failing. Not saying that you have to put all your money in one pot and risk everything of your in your life to start a business, but you can do things where it's a learning journey at the same time. Okay, let's go deeper into look how that looks like. In very simple terms, this is the 5 steps to innovation. And what you're looking at right now is actually something big companies work with. So you guys are already in the forefront of like understanding, how can I become an entrepreneur? How can I use design thinking as my superpower? And I'm going to go through all of these steps during this presentation, but let me just briefly go through them here. So number 1 is that you have to empathize. You have to understand the persons that you want to sell to, you want to solve problems for, or you want to help. Secondly, you have to be able to define the focus. Where are we going? Where are we looking? What is the focus? Ideate, which actually just means brainstorm. I think a lot of you probably have done some brainstorming in school. Then building a prototype. And last but not least, be able to test and learn, test and learn, test and learn, as I just mentioned before. The other part of this is that thinking with your hands can help you a lot. A lot of us work on computers, and I absolutely love that. I love how computers, and I love how you can have these learning programs and platforms like Ulipsu and these areas where you can get all the tools of understanding. But sometimes getting these things in your hand, using Lego, using something to build, can make you just, it doesn't have to be beautiful, but can make you just visualize it a little better if you need to get something out there. Okay. So also it can help you in a cheap way to kind of like test your idea and see if it works. Maybe not with Lego, but maybe with some other tools when you're building prototypes. Okay. Good. I'm going into this. There you go. So if we're going into the first part of the design thinking wheel, we are going into step 1, and that's deeply, deeply sympathize with your audience, your consumer, your clients, your people you want to work with. Really understand their shoes. You don't have to be them to be able to help them. When I say that, is that because a lot of people think when they start a business, they usually start something where they sell to themselves. Oh, I'm a teenager, I want to sell to other teenagers. But it doesn't have to be like that. It can be if it's your passion, it's where you see there's something you can solve, but it doesn't have to be, okay? There was a nurse here in Denmark. She co-founded something called Measurelet. And Measurelet was actually the hospitals that was her clients, but her consumers, or not, maybe not consumers, but her audience and the users, the users of her product were the patients, because the doctors and nurses know that taking their fluid and understanding how much fluid they have in their bodies is very important for monitoring their health. And so what she knew is that this was not a very valuable situation for them, because they didn't like how they had to pee in a cup or constantly feel like measured like that. So she built a technology that was built in within the toilets, so it happened automatically. So she made her job as a nurse easier, and she also made empathized with her patients who didn't really like to do these things in front of nurses and doctors. And that way, you can also solve a problem where you are not necessarily the user of your products. What you have to be really good at is deeply empathize. You have to observe, you have to ask questions, you have to be curious about their feelings and being aware of your situation, the situation and the context of what's going on. Another one is that, when you have children as your users or your customers, it's not you, they are also a different target group, okay? So you have to, the same way as this nurse did with the patient, to look at the children. How do they interact? What would help them? What would make them happy? But what could help them sleep, etc. Okay, I think the most important part of empathize is that this is what actually makes you really, really talented. The reason why I'm saying this is because the one thing that can't be taken from you, and which is your human superpower, and I want to emphasize human because no AI can do this, that is to empathize. And also, I wanted to, before I go to the next slide, just really add that young learners, the students I work with from all over the world, have such a great way of empathizing for others, okay? The next part is that you really define the problem. And you can actually, if you already sit with an idea, or if I have some teachers here online, you can all use this in a maybe classroom setting as well. So be able to take all the things that you've learned from empathizing, what is working, what is not working. On this slide, they're showing a case of the challenge of having a very heavy backpack, school backpack. I actually had some sixth graders who was working on a project like this where they had to redesign. And mind you, of course, these were not designers. They were just like trying to figure out how do we design a bag for our audience. And so the challenge that they got was that one had an elderly retired person who had to walk with this bag every day. Another one had a persona, which was a young traveler traveling around the world, but still had to bring his or her computer to work and school. And so they were in this process of figuring out, like, how do we then create, what is the challenges, and how do we actually create a backpack to this person. And even if it doesn't get completely designed, is the whole process of thinking about what's good and what's bad, and how can we actually try to build this into a product. Okay, so define the challenge, figuring out what is the challenge. Is it too heavy, the backpack, or is the person traveling all around the world and need to have something more backpacker friendly. Then there's step 3. I absolutely love this in design thinking. This is one of my favorite places because this is about going completely wild when you do the brainstorm. So you ideate, and no idea at this stage is bad. And it sounds really easy. Okay, like just write all your ideas, but you will be amazed how many people, how many students I've actually met in this process. Even just on my innovation elective a couple of days ago, a young student, he came up and it's like, I found the perfect idea and here it is, one idea. And I was like, well, do you have some more ideas? Because it's really about being able to see the blind spot and be able to be open that you don't know everything yet. I don't know everything yet. So I'm not saying that you don't know everything. We don't know everything. And until we know that we don't know everything, that's when we can be really open for surprises and open for these margins that are making it interesting. Okay. Right. And it's the reason why we want a lot of ideas is because you can't just you don't know what is around the corner and you want to put everything together. Okay. Another idea is also in this process is to invent a word. You can create a name for the feeling of the problem that doesn't exist yet, just to help you solve it, just to figuring out what is going on here. So they're making an example here calling toaster plus umbrella, toast that stays dry in the rain. So it doesn't really make sense, but it's all about figuring out how do we solve this problem if that was somebody who wanted toast in the rain, right? So it depends on the problem that you work with. It might seem a little confusing, but the point here is that you create hundreds of ideas, not just one. The 4th step is about prototyping. And prototyping is not necessarily that you have to have anything perfect. I still meet a lot of students who are like, but they think they have a full working scale. And no, at this point, prototype can be anything from a storyboard, which you can make in Canva if you work with Canva, or PowerPoint. It's just to make it a little bit more real. What is it that you're trying to solve? Can we see that storyboard? What is the story of the consumer going from a problem to solution? It can even be a role play. So I know that what is really fun is to give these kind of role cards within your team and then try to pretend and do a little theater, and then suddenly something creative will come up and you will figuring out, okay, this prototype didn't really work, or this works really well. And you can use the cardboard, Lego bricks, or whatever to do these prototypes. Yeah, I think that's it. This is step 5, and you would be surprised how many people don't want to do this. Adults don't want to do this because what happens is that within the 4th step, you become so excited for your idea, you become so attached to it, and you feel it as your little baby, and it becomes really hard to take feedback. And it becomes really hard to take feedback from your teacher, from your friends, from everybody around you, because you just saw, and sometimes they don't want to give you the feedback because they're like, oh, he or she's so excited about the idea and her prototype, but I don't think it's going to work in real life, etc. But feedback in entrepreneurship and in design thinking is a gift. It is here that you have to be coachable, and it's here you have to be open-minded. When I'm saying it, you have to take the right feedback, meaning sometimes your parents' feedback wouldn't work because they don't understand and empathize necessarily with your user or the audience. Sometimes the feedback is relevant that it's your parents because they might be the user or the consumer. So when you do the test and feedback, make sure that it's the right people who give you the feedback. Make sure that it's either your users that you empathize with, or it's investors, or it's people who want to be a part of your democratic entrepreneurship, that people can see the idea. It's very important that they can see and understand your idea within a couple of minutes. To be able to make something very complex simple is something a lot of people is challenged by. And this is not only by young learners or young students like yourself. I work with scientists at universities, and they are so particular with their research and with their findings and what they want to write their reports about, that they don't know how to scale it into something that can be used by users. They have no idea of storytelling, of pitching, of telling the story of the product or the service that they want to create. They have no idea of how to make this into an entrepreneurial project or with into something with impact. So if you understand this early on, that feedback is a gift and the right feedback is your superpower, then you're already far ahead than researchers at universities who are 10 years older than you. You have to be, of course, how I would suggest you would have to have set up a way to get feedback. So this could be, questionnaire, it could be interviews, etc. And I'm sure your teachers can help you with that. So the Lego, I want to call it Lego mindset, because design thinking is just like a bucket of Lego bricks, okay? You can rearrange them, you can build something, unbuild it, and then iterate it and pivot it. The pivot is that if you understand early on how to pivot, which means that you change direction or you change something of your business, you become better and stronger or smarter or faster, that's when you pivot. No real entrepreneur or design thinking person stays completely the same. We're here to constantly evolve and develop, and that is what's so exciting by this mindset. All right, so your future superpowers. Again, just to really emphasize, critical thinking, ask questions, understand the power of collaboration, communication, and creativity, and then know that design thinking is really something that AI, robots, whatever you have out there cannot replace, because of you understand, you have empathy, you have resilience, you understand how to get back from failure. And then last but not least, you understand that everything is built through collaboration, through creativity, through group work, and figuring out who says what. Oh, haven't you tried when you sit with your friends? Oh, that sounds good. That sounds really cool. Can I take that? Can you take that? Can we put that all together? These are really the skills of the future entrepreneurs and change makers and leaders. And so I want to also share a story with you, because I was myself a food entrepreneur, and I did a social entrepreneurship where I helped the farmers in the Philippines, where my mother is from, and then I imported it to Denmark with it was called moringa. I think you know it because it's very big in India. I had a lot of Indian clients as well who I talked to, who was importing from, or customers and collaborators who was working with India, which is this very leafy tree that's very healthy, right? And I had that company for five years, I think, and then it went bankrupt during COVID, because then all the imports stopped, and that was the time. Maybe some of you remember it. It was like everything was closed down, right? And what was really interesting was that I wasn't very good at design thinking. I was very, very locked in the final process before getting feedback. I was so convinced that I'm helping the farmers. Moringa is the super healthy leaf. You just put the green leafy powder into your juices or make moringa coffee, and then you just drink it, and everybody in Denmark will buy it because they'll be healthier. But I didn't listen to the feedback. And the feedback is that when it comes to food, people are deeply into their habits. And it's very hard to change habits when it comes to food. And I had to be very, yeah, I would say I had to look at my ego, because that was my ego deciding, no, I think this is it. And just very locked. This will make it. In the end, it wasn't me trying to change a culture of eating. I was just trying to get this up and running, and then it was very hard for me to let it go. And so that's why entrepreneurs, and in this field of design thinking and entrepreneurship, one major factor is that you know when to kill your darlings. I don't know if you heard that concept before, and that is, you kill your darlings. If it doesn't work, stop it. And I think I only, just before COVID hit and we were actually forced to close, my business partner, my co-founder at that time, he kind of said, you know, Jackie, we could do so many other great things together instead of keeping here, trying to sell it, and wasn't a sustainable business. So I've learned from my own experience how you could actually could have changed that process, and how quick it went when I finally opened up and said, you know, it's just a business. I can help and change the world in different ways. All right. So, Payel, I will close up soon. Isn't that like an hour already? How much time do I have left?
You can you can continue. Like, we have 10 more minutes. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I want you guys to take with you today to think about how you can start designing or be an entrepreneur today. And one of the ways you can do that is called the small problem. It doesn't have to be a big problem. It can be that you write down 5 things and try to be open-minded. 5 things that annoys you during the school day, during the when you go home. I had students say, "Oh, it could be the dishwasher. It could be I don't like when I have to wake up early." Or I actually had a lot of students who was talking about one of their biggest challenge was to actually time management. And get all of this down on a big paper, and then you'll just be like, okay, is there a little place here I can solve? Is there something I can fix right away? And one of the things that we actually looked at was that sometimes when you innovate and when you design something, people don't really realize that they needed it. Maybe you can already think about things that are in your world today that we didn't think we need, but now we can't live without it. I might say you might think already the phone, the mobile phone, the iPhone, all of these things, but also just all of these apps and time management things that we didn't think we need. Okay. Then I wanted to just say, add up this webinar with that. The one thing that I think is really amazing with entrepreneurship and innovation, design thinking, and all of this is that it has no limits. When I have that subject in the school that I also work at, is that in this subject, we don't grade them, because it's not about grading in this one. This is about being brave. It's about taking risks. is about asking the critical questions and maybe also be a little bit annoying. Like, keep on persisting in why things are like they are. You guys are the young generation, and you're the next generation to create something really amazing. So you can ask yourself, what little thing can I do for my community, for my friends, for the world, to make this different? It doesn't have to necessarily be completely new innovation. It can just be a small change that um, is gonna help everyday life. Yeah, I think I want to pass it on to you, Payel, so we can have a little bit more time maybe in the Q&A, because I always feel, yeah, I like that. I want to hear what they want to know.
Sure. Yes, Jackie. So yeah, yes, everyone, since the comment section is open now for the Q&A, you can start typing your questions and we will take it forward. Yes. Since we have students from grade 6 to 10 and everything, yes, we can have n number of questions. Since, yeah, as Jackie said, yes, she loves this session of questioning and answering. Yeah. Okay, Jackie, we have a question asking what is innovation? Students want to know what is innovation. How do you
Yeah,
start? Yes.
yes. So in the basic concept of the word, innovation actually means something when something is new and making value for the users. So in simple terms, once there wasn't a iPhone or smartphone, and then today there's a smartphone which was very innovative at the time. So in very simple terms, innovation is when you get something new, you design something new, or you create something new. But if it's not, you can think about a new idea, but it's not innovation until it's out and living in society. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, Jackie. So, yeah. Okay, the next question is, okay. Okay, the student is asking, even can we start our own business like by ourselves alone without a team or something? Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the laws in where you are in India, because in Denmark you can only start like register a real business when you're 18 years old. So I assume, but in like technically, yes, you can start alone. And I know a lot of co-founders who started alone because they had a dream. Founders who started alone, and then from there they started to get looking for co-founders who had different skills, maybe somebody who had more financial skills or creative skills. So you can always start alone if you don't know who to start with.
Okay. Okay. There's an interesting question, Jackie. The
Mhm.
student is asking, what mistakes should young entrepreneurs avoid in their early stage? You know?
Yeah. I think the first one really was the thing that I tried to emphasize here at the end, is that uh, don't let your ego run the show. Let your passion run the show, and be aware of when that is like, you're so fixed on this idea that you won't let it go, because it's kind of like when you are so attached to something, you want it, and then it has hard to work. Starting a business is hard enough, so it's really about finding the balance. And I think that's, don't let the ego run the show, and make sure that you have yourself authentically in it, which means that you once in a while calm down, and then you figure out, is this good for me? That's the one thing. And the second part is that even though I'm all for having a democratic entrepreneurship and you have collaborators, always make sure that you're on the same side, right? Make sure that you're going in the same direction, because or else that could be very hard. And really make sure that it's something you love, because you will spend a lot of time on it. Yeah.
Okay. Jackie, next question is that, okay, a student wants to know, how important is it to have the design thinking mindset? Being young students of age 12 or 14, how important is it to have the design thinking mindset in us?
Personally, I think it's very important, and I think it's very important even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, because you will be able to solve problems at your work, even if it's design thinking. When you look at even history material, politics, etc. So I think it's a skill set a way of thinking that you need in all kinds of industries. So I think it's extremely important for entrepreneurs, because you have to be flexible in your mindset, but it's also something that you can use in other industries.
Okay. Okay, so we have a few more questions coming up, and it says, okay, since we know money has become a very important part of our life, so can we start an entrepreneurship thinking about it without money? If yes, then how is it possible? Is it very much important to have money just to start up with a business or something? So yeah.
No. There's different ways. So first of all, that's what we called fools and friends and family. That's the 3F. Fools, friends, and families. So there's always a way of getting a little support through crowdfunding. If you know what crowdfunding is, there's platforms where you can put up your startup idea, and then you can make people to pay a little money so you can get started. There's always ways where you can be creative in collaborating with companies and say, if I come in here, can I try out this with you guys? Because you're a bigger company, I have this idea. And then there's the whole online world where you basically need your time and being a little bit smart with how you use it. And a lot of platforms today, if you want to do something, has a hobby subscription, which is really cheap, or it's even, some places are even free for a while. So there's a lot of way where you can start getting a prototype online, maybe even try to get some people to pay for it. So I would say you don't really need a lot of money to start with. What you do need is design thinking process and testing your ideas, and you do need to be able to empathize with your users, customers, or audience, right?
Yes. Okay. The next question. Okay, we will go with few more questions. Okay. The question says, how do you balance creativity with practical constraints like time and budget using design thinking?
Yeah. So I know that it's a privilege to have time for these things, and I've been in a bootstrapped startup as well, where it's like, okay, but that's great, but we need to quickly move on. And it's a very great question, because it's all about a balance. And I don't have a short answer for that, because it's where you are in your life, what you have the opportunity to do. I cannot say I know a lot of entrepreneurs who are in my age, in their 40s with children. They just have a different responsibility. They can't work 24/7. But I also know entrepreneurs who are 21 who doesn't mind sleeping on the floor and doesn't mind like not eating for 3 days to make sure, like, so there's a context, and there's industry context, personality context, what I think is very important is to understand the more. Now I'm going into mindset and maybe a little bit of how you view the world. And I really believe there's also a way of like owning it and saying, you know, I have all the time in the world. I say that a lot because I don't have a lot of time in reality, but I try to say I have all the time in the world. There's no stressing things doesn't give us better results. So you're going to waste a lot of money and time if you don't take the time to really feel authentically, try to look at the problem. So you might think, oh, this is again back to the great idea. We don't have enough. We need money now, and we need to put this. Then you might be able to waste a lot of money of time, even though you tried not to waste a lot of money of time. Does that make sense? Because you forget to actually go into the problem and really empathize and really understand. So there's a balance to it all. I think that's my most simple answer I can give. Yeah. Context and balance, and asking yourself, like, is this a priority, right?
Jackie, we'll go with one last question. Since we tend to fail when we start up with something or some new product, or so the questions are, is that how do we handle failures? You know?
Yes. And I think there is failures on different stages. So in entrepreneurship, we try to say fail fast, because if you fail fast, you get faster on the other side. And okay, don't get too attached on the idea. Okay, let's next and next. So that's how you fail fast, is how you fail. But if life happens and it becomes a big failure, and it's just about understanding that it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to just, try again. And that is get a good mentor, get some good family and friends around you, and figuring out, okay, when you're done being hurt, look at the problem and say, okay, how do I still want to work with this problem? Where is the universe or whoever, where are they guiding us? Where am I supposed to look next? But so that's more on how would you say the spiritual or mindset wise. But on the very entrepreneurial and simple way to say it is that try to fail fast and say, okay, next, it didn't work. I iterate small failures, and then remember it's work. It's not your whole identity.
Okay. So yeah, Jackie, that was really wonderful. Thank you for answering all the questions students have asked. I know there are many more questions coming up. This will be a never-ending session though. So because as I see the questions coming up, I see how much the students are actually interested in knowing. So that shows how engaging made the session, even though we don't see them live, It's an online session and we don't see each other's face, but still it's been so much engaging. Yes, that's something very interesting. So yes, thank you so much, Jackie.
I do hope that you all got something out of it. It's always very difficult when it's not like an in-person session where I can kind of see, am I speaking too fast or slow, or is it boring? I can't see if you're all sleeping next to the computer. But I mean, I do hope you enjoy it and got some insights on different ways of doing entrepreneurship, and that you're all like just very brave to go out there and trying it out.
Yes, Jackie. It was literally a wonderful session. As I can still see questions coming up, So yeah, as I said, it's a never-ending session. So, but we have to end it because yeah. So, thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Yes, we will have few more sessions. Everyone, we will be intimated about it. And thank you everyone for joining us, even after the glitches and everything once again. So yeah, we shall end the session. And yes, thank you, Jackie. Thank you, everyone.